Good morning, everyone. Isn't this weather glorious? After yesterday, I was this close to saying, could we do church outside today? But it's a little cold. So anyways, welcome. My name is Reverend Emily Bruce. I'm the minister of this congregation. And whether you're here for the first time or the 1,000th time or somewhere in between, I'm so happy to welcome you with us this morning. As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of diverse beliefs, but we share a common faith, the faith that every person is worthy of love, a faith that what we do in and for this world here matters, and that we are connected by an interdependent web to one another and to our earth. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here this morning. In a moment, Jane Ford will lead us in lighting our chalice, but first, as always, there's a few announcements. First of all, I want to thank everyone who attended and gave their energy and love to the installation service that happened last Sunday. It was a wonderful, beautiful, long and affirming service, and I'm just so grateful to be here and so grateful to officially be installed as your minister. So thank you. Thank you. And if you didn't see this, this is the stole that you all gave me as a gift. Isn't it beautiful? I know. Yes. So thank you for that. And because last weekend was a lot, there was a lot going on, we've ended up rescheduling a couple things that were on our calendar for today. The first being the newcomers class that was supposed to happen after church today. We have moved that to November 5th, Sunday, November 5th, so 2 weeks from today. It was in the newsletter this week with the new date. So if you're new to us, if you're contemplating membership here, if you want to learn more about Unitarian Universalism, you are welcome to attend our newcomers class on Sunday, November 5th. It's right after coffee hour in the parish house, and all you have to do is email me and tell me you want to come. We'll have lunch, we'll talk, we'll share, and it's always a really fun and interesting class. So all are welcome. The other thing we rescheduled was Bring a Friend Sunday. Today was in the calendar as being Bring a Friend Sunday. I know. But really, isn't every Sunday Bring a Friend Sunday? That's my response to that. But, so we are now officially having Bring a Friend Sunday on November 12th, which is 3 weeks from today. And also during that service, I am delighted to tell you we're going to be having a child and youth dedication. So yes, very exciting. We've already got a couple children signed up. So if you are a child or a youth or the parent of a child or a youth and you would like to participate in this service, please reach out to me or Laura Sanda, our Director of Religious Enrichment. And if you don't know what a child dedication is, it's sort of like a baptism, but not. And it is an opportunity for this community to dedicate themselves to the thriving and love and support of the children in our community. That is the point of a child dedication in a Unitarian Universalist church. So it's not necessarily a theological exercise, but a ritual of commitment and belonging that we all as adults make to support the children in our midst. So that's what a child dedication is. Feel free to come talk to me at coffee hour, or again, talk to Laura Sanda, our Director of Religious Enrichment, if you have questions or if you want to get involved. And finally, next Sunday is our now becoming standard annual tradition, our Halloween brunch. So we are going to be having a very brief worship service over in Sampson Hall, followed by a delicious brunch. There is a sign-up genius in the newsletter if you want to make something or bring something or contribute in some way. Costumes are very much encouraged. I don't think I have to say that for a Halloween brunch, but I hope you will consider wearing some kind of costume. The kids are going to plan something fun, some spooky fun for us, so I hope you'll come again next Sunday. And the link was in the newsletter this past week, and it will be in this week as well, to sign up to bring something for the brunch. So I hope all will come. And now that the announcements are over, I invite you all to join me in taking a deep breath in and out. Let's do that again. In and out. Get comfortable in your seat. If you have any tension in your neck or your jaw, try to let it go. Put your phone down and away and hopefully silence it. And let The world outside that is swirling around in all of our brains right now, just try to let it rest for the next hour while we spend this time together in worship. And Jane Ford will lead us in lighting our chalice.
Good morning. My name is Jane Ford. I'm a member of the worship committee and today's worship associate. I want to welcome you all to this loving community. Come in bringing all of who you are. We gather in worship, our hearts alive with hope that here we will truly be seen. Turn down the volume of your fears and loosen the armor around your heart. May we root ourselves in the values of this faith: acceptance and encouragement, compassion and transcendence, justice and transformation. This morning, we light the chalice with these words by Pat Uribe Lady. Our chalice is a reminder that in hard times, our ancestors in faith acted with courage to bring hope and safety, to bring life itself to threatened people. We light it today as a reminder of who we are called to be in a world still dangerous and despairing. With courage and faith, we bring ourselves to the work before us this morning. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn. It's number 331 in the gray hymnal, called Life is the Greatest Gift of All.
As we enter into a time of sharing the joys and concerns on our hearts with each other this morning, I invite you to join me in singing side 1 of May Love Be Your Guide. Will you now join me in the spirit of prayer? Spirit of life, source of compassion, we hold the joys and concerns lifted up by this community this morning, knowing that each of us, whether spoken aloud or in silence, carries much on our hearts today. May we take time to breathe into the peace of this space, holding tightly the sacred circle that we create when we are together. And may we extend that circle ever outward to a world in need of peace and breath right now. We hold the citizens of Israel and Palestine in our hearts, too aware of the vast destruction being perpetrated on so many innocent children, parents, grandparents, and friends. Though we may feel confused or enraged or overwhelmed by the cacophony of voices and opinions all around, I pray that we let us hold to what we know is true, that all life is sacred, that suffering of any kind must be answered with calls for freedom and peace. Let us join our prayers with all of those praying for peace around our globe today. Let us join our voices of outrage with all those who cry out against oppression. Let us join our hands with all those who strive for freedom. May we know our power to speak with courage, though we may be scared. May we know gratitude for the moments of joy and peace that are still ours to experience. And may we act with compassion and humility in the face of such despair and pain, with our fervent prayers that wisdom and peace may prevail. In the name of the love that surpasses all understanding, may it be so, and amen. Let us hold a few moments of silence here together. Will you please join me in singing side 2 of May Love Be Your Guide?
When we give, we say yes to something we value. In this congregation, we take up an offering each week to say yes to the values of our UU faith and yes to this beloved community. Please give as you are able. Today's offering will be greatly received. Our offering anthem is Come and Find the Quiet Center, words by Shirley Arena Murray, and music by Ann Krantz organ.
Find the quiet center in the crowded
This morning's reading is called Everything is Still on Fire by Reverend Teresa Inez Soto. Everything is still on fire, despite your best efforts. In addition to living, it's clear that fire or not, you must level up in what it means to thrive. Right now, that means wrestling with the truth in the fact that everything is not all your fault. I'm sorry that everything is still on fire. Once hate catches, the winds of "not my problem" blow. And the blaze is hard to stop. But hard is not impossible. Not yet is different than never. You in community have an answer. You have a response to systems of power and control and to the cost of suffering. You and your community together are the answer. You are not only a people of flame, but also a people of cold, clear truth. You know both where you fall short and where you flourish, where you still reach. Everything is still on fire, but all is not lost. You remain more nimble, more steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough.
Thank you. Enough is enough. I'm certainly feeling that enough is enough when I look at the state of the world today. How about you? There are so many ravenous flames, as the author of that poem put it, that I sometimes wonder how we haven't all been consumed yet. I chose that reading today because everything still is on fire. And I know that hurts your heart and your mind. It hurts my heart and it hurts my mind. And it's like you almost can't believe that this is what our world is like right now. On every front, it seems there is pain, there is anger, there is violence. And some days I feel like I just can't take it. Am I alone? No. I've been feeling this way for a while, as I'm sure many of you have, and today I want to talk about an experience I had that has helped me start is the key word, to reframe how I see our world's problems and my place in it. Doesn't fix the problems, doesn't make them go away, but actually connects them in a way that makes sense for me and therefore helps me. And it is my hope that it might do the same for you. So first, last June, some of you know that I attended General Assembly, which is the Unitarian Universalist Association's annual conference. This year it was held in Pittsburgh, the first one in person since COVID, and I was excited. I love going to conferences, I love going to workshops, I love doing all of that stuff. And to do it in person with all of my colleagues and a whole convention center full of UUs was amazing. And especially, like I said, after 3 years of online General Assembly, I was ready. So one of the workshops I was most excited about attending was led by the minister and director of religious education of the community church in New York City. The title of the workshop was Disrupt Church. And like a lot of my colleagues, and some of you too, we're all struggling with how church life has changed over the last couple years, but also over the last couple decades. And we're always trying to think of new ways to bring people in, to offer services that are meaningful, to find ways to reach out and meet people where they are, and to help people hopefully understand why church is needed and necessary in a time such as this. So, and I thought that's what that workshop was going to be about, all the strategies and things like that. And it was kinda, not really, actually, because it actually, one part of the workshop included some research and insight that was so much bigger than just strategies to make church better. And that one sliver of the workshop is what I'm going to talk about today. So first, I invite you to look at the graphic on the front of your order of service. You'll see 3 vertical columns of words, and at the top it says from left to right, subject, consumer, citizen. All the words underneath each of those words describe what the relationship of that word looks like, and I will explain more as we go. So they use this graphic in the Disrupt Church presentation to illuminate the ways that our world and our roles in that world have shifted over generations. And I've never heard it explained the way this graphic explained it, and it made a whole bunch of sense to me, both on where we've come from and also the competing forces at work in our society today. So, back in the mid-2010s, a British writer named Jon Alexander, working with a research group that calls itself the New Citizenship Project, released a report entitled, "This is the Citizen Shift." And this report, in the broadest terms, described our society throughout time as having moments of cultural collapse and rebirth in 3 main phases. So in the first phase, we were subjects. This era began centuries ago and continued on until around the 1930s. As subjects, we submitted deferentially to the authority of others, like kings, religious leaders, politicians, the extremely wealthy, like that. As the report puts it, quote, "The right thing to do was to keep our heads down, do our duty, and be content with our lot, while the God-given few led society forward. We were taught that being loyal subjects and following the rules set for us by others was the definition of how to live a good and honorable life. Further, we were told we would be protected. We would be safe from the outside threats of the world as long as we trusted our leaders absolutely and did everything they told us to do." Is that resonating with some people? Okay, just making sure you're with me. Okay. Now, 2 world wars happened, and the dawning ages of industrialization and capitalism, and that made that subject story kind of collapse on itself. Sometimes around, like I said, the 1940s. And then we began a shift into the age of the consumer. As consumers, we learned that we had to look out for ourselves first. We had to make money, we had to be successful, and what's more, we had to exercise our ability and our right to think of ourselves, at least first, if not only. That's what living the good life meant as a consumer. Individualism, materialism reigned supreme, and not coincidentally, cultural practices began to shift away from community life, away from belonging to church, away from being active in your local community, away from knowing all of your neighbors. The emphasis as a consumer was what served you best, what helped you live your best life. Thanks, Oprah. In many ways, being a consumer was a necessary reclamation of the self after generations and generations of duty and obedience. The separation from institutions and rulers that we learned we could not always be trusted to take care of us and have our best interests at heart. Let me read that sentence again. We learned to separate from institutions and rulers that we learned could not always be trusted and did not always, despite what they told us, have our best interests at heart. And that makes a lot of sense to me. Look at Vietnam, look at Watergate, and everything that came after that. The age of the consumer was modern. It was new. It was shaking off the dust of the old way and living a life of individual freedom and choice. It was progress. Yes? Okay. Still with me, right? Okay, good. So the unfortunate byproduct of this age of the consumer was that over time, and still is, a dissolution of our community spaces and a dissolution of our understandings of our connections to each other. Our human need to belong, which is a core of who we are as humans. We seek belonging, we seek to know and be known. That instinct in us got pushed down and shoved away by stuff and things and materialism. And then through partisan divides and the politics of fear and a global pandemic that literally made us afraid to be in the company of other people. Right? You see that trajectory through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and all the way up till today. And here we are, where the ravages of late-stage capitalism, climate change, reckonings around the systemic oppressions of race, gender, and class, and extreme wealth equality that's even worse than it was before the Great Depression. Did you know that? The wealth inequality today is worse than it was before the Great Depression. All of that are causing our consumer story to collapse. Does that make sense? Okay. It's been happening for a while now, but the pandemic really kind of sped it up and started to really rip apart the fabric that was already really frayed. Okay, so you might be asking yourself, what comes next? That's an excellent question. So the answer that the new Citizenship Project proposes is that we can do one of three things. We can slide back into being subjects. We can cling to this really dissolving era of being consumers, or we can move into a new era, which they have called the era of the citizen. In many ways, they argue all three are trying to happen at the same time, and so much of the discord and vitriol in our culture right now is a battle between these three different frameworks of American life. Now, we're all citizens of this country, of course, but in this context, a citizen is a mindset. It's a framework for understanding your role in relationship to others around you and your responsibilities in that role with your communities and with our nation. So let's define the age of the citizen a little bit. It is participatory, it's interdependent versus independent and dependent, like consumer and subject are. It's engaged. Citizens understand and embrace the connections that they share with each other, which are not transactional, but relational. The citizen age is collaborative, and it functions kind of like a hive, where everyone has a role working together for the greater good. Does that make sense? Imagine a big beehive, all of us yellow and black striped as little bees. I like that image. Citizens are not competitive, they're collaborative. They join forces. They have a responsibility to each other because there is a deep foundational understanding of how our survival relies on the survival of others and vice versa. And we have some really good examples of what that looks like in our culture right now. During COVID, think about all the mutual aid societies that sprang up everywhere and all the people who donated money and donated food and helped their neighbor and helped their kids teach them at school, at home, and all the ways we helped each other during the pandemic. Think about masks, How long did we all agree, well, some of us, most people in this room, I would hope, agree to wear masks, understanding deeply that protecting our health was protecting the public's health and vice versa? It's another great example. And then look at all the social justice engagement that's going on right now by so many in this country, people using their voices to resist the book bans, the transgender oppression, the racial injustice, and the voters fighting to preserve reproductive rights. It's swirling all around us. And I will also say, for all of its faults, social media is a great place to find fellow citizens these days. I'm not a big fan of social media, but I know it has its uses, and one of them is the way you can literally connect with people around the world, fighting for the same causes as you, fighting for justice the same way you are. And that's kind of incredible, right? And finally, look right here in our own community, how so many people stepped up to help the migrant families living in our midst, especially, of course, all of us. But remember those hundreds of bags of clothes that were donated? I know, that was a lot, but look at the way people engaged. And there are many who are fighting against those poor migrants and refugees, but there are so many more that are fighting for them, like we are, realizing that we can and must help our fellow humans who have struggled through so much oppression and so much violence and have come so far just to make a life for themselves and their children that is safe. Because protecting their rights to a free and safe life for themselves and their families is protecting the same rights for ourselves, and we get that. If they're not safe, ultimately we're not safe either. So citizens combine their individual power into a collective power. They create a participatory democracy where they make sure their voices are heard rather than disengaging with the rights and responsibilities of living in that democracy. Like the reading we heard this morning says it so beautifully, you and your community together are the answer, right? So, as I said a moment ago, we're standing on a sort of precipice. These three stories, subject, consumer, and citizen, are battling it out for control. You see the subject narrative trying to take over in the rise of authoritarian regimes, the restriction or outright reversal of reproductive rights, and all the ways in which some with power are attempting to oppress all of those who do not fit the straight, white, able-bodied norm in our culture. And their tactics are violent and scary. And people are afraid. And scared people retreat, turning over power to others who promise to protect them. And isn't that, to put not too fine a point on it, the foundation of conservative politics in this country right now? The message is that those people, whether they're black or gay or trans or immigrants, those people are trying to destroy you, those people are trying to corrupt your children, those people are trying to end your existence. So give us all the power and we will protect you. We will make sure that if you swear allegiance to us, that you will be safe. They're trying to create a nation of subjects. And at the same time, the consumer narrative is fighting mightily for control too, insisting that COVID is over, that we should just go back to normal, that nothing's changed, there's nothing to heal from, nothing to recover from, everything's just back to normal, just ignore it, and everything will be fine. And I'll be honest, how many of us frequently wish that things would just go back to the way they were before, even though that really doesn't exist? It's so much harder now than it was before we had to worry about global pandemics and climate change, and before we were all aware of racism. I mean, we were all aware of racism, but, the potential destruction of our democracy. For many of the white people in my generation and older, many of us can remember a time when things felt easier and simpler. They weren't actually for so many, but they felt for us, with our privilege, easier and simpler. So can't we just watch TV and forget about it? Or let's go buy that thing that we're all supposed to have? The Apple Corporation and Amazon.com and much of corporate America are built on a foundation of the consumer model, and they have a deeply vested interest in promoting and preserving the consumer narrative in our country. And then we have the citizen model, which is new and therefore scary, because it is unknown and it's untested, and it holds the only real promise for rebuilding trust and preserving our democracy. I believe that firmly. And it can reconnect us to that core of ourselves that I talked about before, that wants to be known, that wants to belong, that wants to connect, underneath all of the anger and the fear and the violence and the partisan rancor. I believe very firmly that every single human being wants to belong and wants to be known. Even the ones that are committing the most atrocities against others right now, they also have that same desire deep in their core to belong. But the subject and consumer models rob us of that desire and try to replace it with the promise of money, with the promise of safety, however elusive that is, and most importantly, with the promise of being right. Being right and being able to say that the other guy is wrong. It is amazing to me how powerful that is for most people, to be able to say that I'm right and you're wrong. So, I've painted quite a big picture here, I realize. I've just given you a whole bunch of information, which hopefully you caught some of it. It's a lot. And I also want to say that this sermon could have been a lot longer. There's so much to say here, but as I bring it to a close, I want to ask you some questions. I want to give you some food for thought, hopefully, that you will take with you. So thinking of these three models, subject, consumer, and citizen. What roles do you find yourself in when you think about all the different groups and communities that make up your life? In your family, in your work, in your book club or your pickleball group? Think about it. Because this drills all the way down to one-on-one interpersonal interactions too. It's not just a big global or national theory. It really comes down to our one-on-one interactions and relationships with those around us. So how are you treated in some of those groups? Do you feel like a subject? Do you feel like a consumer? Do you feel like a citizen? Do you feel like your voice is heard? And how does that affect how you feel like you belong to those groups? Do you feel connected to the other people, like you're part of something bigger than yourself? What about here at church? God, I hope no one feels like a subject here. But maybe you do. Maybe you learned that from the church of your childhood, and it's just now occurring to you that you've never fully let that go. For those of you who are raised Catholic, I would totally understand that. Or do you feel like a consumer here? Do you sometimes grumble that a certain sermon didn't give you what you paid for? Maybe you're feeling that right now. If you're visiting us today, would you call what you're doing right now church shopping? That's a phrase we use a lot, right? It's a phrase I hate, but it's a phrase we use, church shopping. So if that's true, what are we selling here? And is it something you want to buy? And is that the criteria we really want to use? We're talking about looking for a church home? No, it's not. The answer is no, but I get it. Finally, what would you do if you truly believed in your ability to create change? Meaningful change, big or small. I'm not asking you to take on the world, but if you have labeled yourself a consumer or a subject in any of the scenarios I mentioned, what would it take for you to believe in your right to act as a citizen? To know that you had a voice, and you had a right and a responsibility, which is a big part of this, to use that voice. What would that mean for you? What would it mean if you knew firmly, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are interdependent with all of those around you, and that working together, you could actually create something, even something small that had power to affect change? It's hard for us to believe that. It's hard for us to, we say it's true, but to believe it, it's a whole different ball of wax. And what would it look like to empower others to do the same? This is the hallmark of the citizen. They are not endowed with special powers or abilities or talents. They step into the knowledge that all of us have special powers, all of us have special talents, and all of us have special abilities. They believe in human nature as creative, capable, and caring. And when we work together in relationships of respect and love, when that hive gets humming, wow, the things we can do, right? So, if it's not already clear, I personally am all in for the age of the citizen. Let's bring it, let's put our energy there and resist the entreaties of a world and a culture that wants to make us subjects or consumers. It may be unknown, it may be scary, but it sure is a better path to restoring our democracy than anything I think we have tried thus far. Thank you, Ruth. Yeah. And I end this sermon with words from our reading today. Everything is still on fire, but nothing is lost. You remain more nimble, more steadfast, more unshakable than swayed by the latest rage. You are here to put out the ravenous flames and heal the world. Enough is enough. May it be so, friends. Amen. Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, number 1014 in the Teal hymnal, Answering the Call of Love. You will notice that the title in the hymnal is Standing on the Side of Love, but the UUA has heard the call of its membership that the use of the word standing is actually ableist, and they have responded with changing the text to Answering the Call of Love. So in the lyrics, when the music instructs you to sing Standing on the Side of Love, sing Answering the Call of Love, and let us remember that it's in these tiny moments of inclusion and respect that we most easily know ourselves as a community of love and respect for all. Thank you. Friends, may we answer the call of love every day, knowing our rights and responsibilities as citizens of this world, working for justice and peace with our minds and our hands and our hearts. May it be so, and go in peace. Amen.